Go, baby, what's good, guys? Yoku here. I have not looked at a Prydwen tier list in a little bit, not for any negative reasons. Obviously, I like to take a little bit more time now because it just feels like the meta doesn't change as much. However, there have been some things that I've been looking at, especially with the release of Aria. And, you know, now that she's finally here, I have some opinions. I'll talk about those later on. But as of right now, my thought process when it comes to the game is that there are certain characters that are really easy to pick up, so low skill floor, or high enough skill ceiling. The damage output is there. Some of the other characters have a medium to high skill floor, but they're worth it. But ultimately, I think at this current point in the meta and the current point in the game, I mentioned it last time we talked about it, that we're getting to a point now where I do think that tier lists need to change towards teams tier lists. I'll point out something that Prydwen made a change for, which I think is pretty cool. It's not for Zenless though, which sucks, but it is what it is. I think we should be moving towards teams tier lists, but with that, I also think there's a lot more things that we got to start talking about. For now, let's just kind of jump into this real quick and talk about some of the later changes to the tier list. Let's kind of break down what we're looking at. So right now, we already have tier 0, which I think is pretty established as is what it is. Yeshunguang, Yixuan, which Yixuan has her expert tag removed. I'm not sure why. And after doing, which you guys haven't seen the video yet, but if you were on my stream, you would have seen it. You know that we did a week of Yixuan. If you're in the Discord, you know that week of Yixuan was some work. I 122% know for a fact this character needs the expert tag. She needs it. There's such a huge discrepancy between a regular Yixuan player, like you're just playing the game, right? Which is what you saw me doing before. Whenever you saw me playing Yixuan, I'm just playing the character based off whatever I feel. And then when I learned what to do, guys, when I tell you that like this discrepancy is huge, it takes you from, we'll say like bare minimum 20K, right? That's a good baseline. 20K in Deadly Assault. Understanding what you're doing with Yixuan literally over doubles your score. It takes you from 20K to like 45 to 50K range, okay? It's huge. So yes, this character 162% should have an expert tag on her. I'm not saying that she needs the expert tag to remain in tier 0, but I'm saying just for the sake of information, there is a difference. Just like there's a difference with Miyabi. We talked about that earlier on stream as well, where like Anomaly in general, a lot of Anomaly players have no idea what they're doing. Not in a bad way, they're not paying attention to Anomaly. And a player that is paying attention, so like an expert Miyabi or an expert tier Miyabi, they understand that. The support characters, I think we already had these, right? Like nothing really changed. Astra, Dylin, Lucia, Suna, and Yuzu. I don't see any up arrows, so I think all of these characters are already here. And for the most part, all of these characters are already here. But again, I'm always going to kind of like try and push for this. Right now, with the new boss Vesper, which a lot of you guys would have been expressing some disinterest with, right? Everyone and their mama has been going haywire about this boss here, okay? Can't clear, can't get my 20K. She's an Aria specific boss. Only Aria can fight her, whatever. All this kind of stuff. Because of that, and because of so many other things that I've talked about in previous videos, all day on stream, I've talked about it. So everyone already in chat knows what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it and what I've already said. If you're watching the video, which is like a week later, you don't know what I said, right? And you don't have the huge like 2-hour backstory as to why I said it. But we need to go back to separating stunners and supports. They're not the same. I've said this so many times. I feel like I'm one of the few content creators that are pushing for this, where it's like stunners do not need to be in the same category as supports. It's even more so now. With a character or a boss like Vesper, it is in your face showing you. Vesper as a boss is showing players why stunners and supports do not go in the same category. There is a clear, distinct reason or need or difference between having a stunner and not having a stunner. Being able to utilize stuns and getting to the stun versus not being able to do that. It completely changes how you play teams. If you look at, even with Anomaly, right? Because for the longest time, Anomaly doesn't even need stunners. They don't care about stun. Sure, whatever. Now we have a character, Aria, who does care about stun, and we have a character or a boss, Vesper, who is Anomaly suited or suited for Anomaly, who also cares about stun. And so this drastically changes how you play. You guys are probably being recommended the team that's going to be 9 times out of 10, the team that's being recommended to everybody for Aria is going to be Aria. It's going to be Suna. And then it's going to be, actually, you know what? Let me reverse that. Yuzuha and then Suna, because you want to pass the buff from Yuzu into Suna and then from Suna into Aria, right? Boom. That's the team. This is most likely what's going to be recommended to a lot of Aria players. Like, this is her best team, whatever. You want this team, blah, 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 blah. But what if I told you that a team that is equally as strong, if not stronger, depending on what you're fighting, is actually going to look closer to something like this: Aria, Lycon, and Suna. And of course, once we get Non-Gong, that'll be even more prevalent. But right now, in the current state of the game, what if I told you that both of these teams are relatively speaking equal, but Lycon actually shaves off a little bit better? When you fully optimize the team, the Lycon team is going to outperform the Yuzuha team. And so you might hear like, oh, well, the number said this or this, that, and the third. Right, but when you actually get into playing the character, playing the team versus the Vesper boss, how are you able to get off all of the damage if this boss never stops moving? And if you don't have the tools, which I do have a guide, by the way, it's a written guide. The video guide would have already been out on the channel by now. You guys would have been able to see it. I'll link it up here somewhere if you haven't seen it. But how do you fight a boss that is just as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than 90% of the characters in the game? You don't have the means to stop it. Now, there are things that you can do. Again, I have it in my guide. I have everything listed out in my guide, guys. It's an amazing guide. It's very in-depth. I highly suggest you go watch it or you go read it. It's on Twitter in my article. If you go to my profile, it's right there. The only article I have up right now are in the video guide. But point being is that you can't stop her. If you can't stop the boss, not just from stunning her, because that's not the only way to stop her from moving. A lot of people think that you have to do that, but let's just take that at a very baseline level. The only way to stop her is to stun her or to shut her down, which is with control skills. How do you do that with a hyper carry team that does not have anyone doing stuns? On top of the fact, just like with shout outs to my boy Rivenus actually has it in his guide video for Aria, where he talks about giving your Suna a 2-piece impact disc or a 2-piece impact set with an impact 6. Completely changes the way that we're building Suna right now as a support character, and it turns her into a support character with just enough stun or impact to be able to influence the fight and get 3 stuns if you play correctly. And that drastically changes things. But it goes to show, and again, another point that I'm trying to make here is that it goes in to show stunners are not supports. You don't have them in the same category. They should not be in the same category. The game is constantly giving us bosses where it's like, yo, stun or support, stun or support. Thrall, this boss, Wandering Hunter, the list goes on and on. Stunners have key values in the game and they need to be separated, at least in my opinion, so that the newer players who come to tier lists to use them to gather information, that is why stunners and support need to be separated from the category, so that those type of players who want to learn or they're looking to learn can understand the difference. Because right now, and again, we've seen this all over the internet, how come my Yuzuha and Suna combo, or how come my Astra and Suna combo is not able to defeat whatever this boss is, but this other person playing DPS, Kolea, and Lucy, how come they're getting 30k no problem? How come they're getting 27k no problem? How come they're clearing, but my top tier team is not clearing? It's because these teams don't function the same way. And we're not explaining that to the players, right? Moving down from the tier 0 thing though, and going straight into tier 0.5, I think everyone here for the most part is kind of the same. Bonway is finally up here in a, when did Bonway jump up in a tier 0.5? Has he always been here? I could be wrong. I haven't paid attention to that for a long time, but Bonway being in tier 0.5 is really good. Oh wait, Evelyn. No. Evelyn was already here, right? Evelyn has not jumped up, guys. Am I tripping? I feel like Evelyn was already up here. I knew Yidhari was up here. I knew Seed was up here, and I knew Orphe was up here as well. We knew about Alice, and we knew about Vivian too, being the anomaly characters in the game. At this current moment in time, I think Evelyn should get brought down to tier 1. Not because she's bad, for anyone like in the video comments or whatever. It's not because Evelyn's bad. I think she's an amazing character, and I think she's one of, if not the best, S-rank DPS that a character can pick up, given how versatile she is. And I know some might say like, okay, well then yeah, use what you're gonna say as like why she should stay in tier 0.5. The reason I'm saying that I don't think she should be in tier 0.5 right now is because she's getting outpaced by everyone else up here. Also Seed. I don't know if I would agree with Seed being in tier 0.5 right now. Maybe when the Cecilia character comes out, maybe. But as of right now, I don't see some of these characters sitting up here. P6 Sambi alone is smoking everybody on this board. The only one that might not get smoked by P6 Sambi in terms of damage is Yidhari. And again, that's maybe. I don't know the numbers on that. Orphe is one of a kind. She's up here. Bonway outputs the damage, and Bonway is one of the few characters up here. If we're talking about like a cost system and like how valuable he is to, if you learn how to play him, can you clear? Period. Like he doesn't care. He's up here, right? Yidhari is very similar to Bonway in that same context, which is why she's up here as well. Shout outs Rupture, because that's just what they do. Evelyn and Seed, I would be willing to bring down to tier 1. Top of tier 1 is what I would do. I would bring these two characters down. Again, not because they're bad, just because at this current moment in time, they're not keeping up with the other characters in terms of like just raw output and on top of their versatility and whatnot. Alice is still tier 0.5. I think that's more prevalent now, especially. Aria, Tier 0.5 for sure. No debating that, especially after playing her for the little bit of time that I did and getting ready to go on like an expansive play for the rest of the week with Aria. The only thing that I'm worried about is them having the watch list to bring her up to tier 0. And the reason I'm saying that, it's not because like, oh, only Miyabi can be up here. I think Aria's damage is probably, she's beating Alice. I think Aria is beating Alice in terms of DPS. And I think she's matching and probably, possibly beating Miyabi in terms of DPS too. Why I don't think Aria goes into tier 0, even with the whole like watch list thing, or if you gave her an expert tag, I think she would be too team dependent to meet the criteria for tier 0. I don't think she's extremely versatile in the sense that like all the other anomaly characters are very versatile. I think the difference between Aria is that she is very much a hyper carry type of anomaly unit, which nothing wrong with that, right? Like there's nothing wrong with her being a hyper carry anomaly unit. That's not really what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at when it comes to this character is that everything depends on her. If we look at the tier 0 characters, let's talk about them briefly. All 3 of these characters, as far as DPS go, very versatile units. They can carry the entire board and they can work with somebody else and they still carry the board, or the other person helps them carry the board, right? They're very versatile in terms of team building. They have multiple builds or have the potential for multiple builds. These 2 really don't need multiple builds. They have perfect, I guess, yeah, all of them have perfect whatever. So if I were to like maybe niche that down, what I mean by multiple builds is very similar to how like Miyabi, I can run her with AM 6 or attack 6. I can run her attack 4, crit rate 4, crit damage 4, ice damage, pen, attack. The same thing goes for all these other characters. Of course, being ruptured, that might change a little bit more, right? You get a little bit more limited in your options, but it's kind of the same thing. Aria doesn't have that, not yet at least. And on top of that, while I do believe after we did it, I think Aria is going to have a low skill floor, just like all 3 of these characters. And I also think that Aria is going to have a high skill ceiling. She's not just a butt slam character anymore, maybe not even anymore. She has tech. There's some optimization to her and there's some really cool funky stuff you can do with her that I'm almost positive will increase her DPS as well, especially from that like average player level going into like, hey, we can't kill, but we can definitely get high scores, something like that. So damage wise, yeah, sure, tier 0. It's just, I feel like everything else holding her back might be there. But, you know, again, I could be wrong on that for sure. If she jumps into tier 0, I wouldn't necessarily argue against it. I just don't see that right now with the current state of the game. Vivian in tier 0.5, that's fine. Bernice needs to jump up here to, actually, I lied. I think we bring Vivian down to tier 1 with Bernice. Yanagi stays. We bump Jane and Piper down. Now, I don't think these characters are tier 2. I really don't. But I think there's a difference in value between Yanagi, Bernice, and Vivian. Jane and Piper are not on that same list. If we're talking about the value between these 3 characters, Jane and Piper do not belong in the same category as Yanagi, Bernice, and Vivian. That's my whole like thought process. I don't think they're tier 2 though, but I don't think these characters are tier 0.5. At one point, we could have argued that Alice could be tier 0, which means you could theoretically bring Alice and Aria up to tier 0 and then bring Bernice and Yanagi up to tier 0.5. That's an option. I don't fully agree with it, but I wouldn't complain about it either. But there's a lot more, especially with a P6 that she has available to her. We already talked about the stunners and supports being separated. I don't think Zhao is a 0.5 character. Like, I don't care if she's free. This character is not 0.5. She's not on the same value as Trigger. It's hard for me to even say she's on the same value as Nicole. Like, yeah, Zhao brings a good amount to the table. And you know what it is? I think what's holding Zhao back is her build. If there was a way for us to meet that 27,000 HP threshold to max out her buff, you didn't need her engine. She had good engine options in the first place, like alternatives, which she doesn't. And you could give her things like impact or anomaly mastery, even attack percent if she needed it. If you could vary her build, I would say she's a tier 0.5 support or defense agent, right? Which is just support. But at the current state that she's in, with the amount of characters that we have that she just doesn't work with. And when I say doesn't work with, it's not that she doesn't work with them, right? Oh, she works with anomaly. Sure. She activates her additional passive with anomaly. Realistically, what is she doing for any other anomaly agent except Aria with the Ether Veil? She does nothing for Alice. She does nothing for Vivian. She does nothing for Jane. She does nothing for Piper. She does nothing for Yanagi. She does nothing for Bernice. And she barely does something for Miyabi. And that's just because Miyabi is Miyabi. Zhao does not actually provide any real value to these characters that are in the anomaly tier except Aria. So when a future character comes out and like, sure, they benefit from the Ether Veil, awesome. But like what? We're getting, oh, well, we get the quick assist. Astra does that. Suna does that. Yuzu does that. What else? Oh, well, she's giving us the attack buff. Astra does that. Suna does that. Yuzu does that. What else, right? Like, she's not really doing anything for the other half of her additional passive. So it's pointless. I think this character's tier 1. I think she needs a partner tag. And I don't care if they give it to Ye Shun Wang and somebody. She just needs something. She's nowhere near as beneficial as Trigger. If you were to give somebody an account and told them they had the opportunity to only build one character and they had to play that character for the next 6 months, and your options, I'll even say two out of these 5 characters, your options are Jafufu, Lighter, Nicole, Trigger, and Zhao. You're not picking Zhao. Out of all 5 of those characters, Zhao is most likely at the bottom of that list. Trigger is number 1, and then you might start arguing between Jafufu and Lighter. Maybe Nicole if you value supports, but Zhao is not going to be anywhere near that conversation if you bring in the values like that. She's not a tier 0.5 character. Oh, she's free. Oh, she get nope. Even the attack characters, most of the attack characters that are running it, they run it because Zhao is free, or you're forced to. Like right now with the Ether Veil buff, a lot of players feel like they're forced to run Zhao just to activate the stage buff. And it's like, you don't have to do that at all. You just don't. I would pick her, to be honest, as List is considering M0W1. M0W0 Trigger is more valuable than M0W1 Zhao. M6W0, because whatever, Nicole is more valuable than Zhao. M0W0 Lighter. But since we're considering W1, W1 Lighter is more valuable than Zhao. Gives the buffs to both fire and ice. Does the stunning that Zhao cannot do. Does it fast. Guarantees you're going to get your 3 stun windows. Guarantees you're going to get your damage output. And not clunky. Thank you. Exactly. Zhao's clunky as f. Jafufu M0 W1 provides more value than Zhao. She doesn't belong up here. She doesn't. Moving down to tier 1, P6 Ellen being in tier 1. Fair. I don't see this character going up to tier 0.5. The rework, we talked about it early on stream. Her rework, after seeing everyone else's potential changes, right? Haramasa's potential change, Sandby's potential change, Soldier 11, Bernice, Lycon, they really gimped Ellen. They gimped her hard. She needs a new rework, which is crazy to say. Haramasa, with the watch list, agreed. I've been keeping my eye on the newer characters with the potential changes this round. I think the 2 characters that I have my eye on the most right now are Haramasa and Lycon. Outside of like Aria and like anything else anomaly, these potential changes for both of these characters are outstanding. Haramasa with the potential change has brought him up to a point, especially if we are like, let's go ahead and consider Zhao, right? If we're considering all the options he has now for teams and his kit in particular. One of the things about Haramasa that's always been slept on that a lot of the average player base don't look at is the fact that Haramasa benefits from both anomaly and attack. Miyabi is the only other character that most people talk about. She is an attack character disguised as an anomaly character, but Haramasa is an attack character that benefits from the anomaly playstyle as well. And random anomalies always happen. They always happen. So now when you come over here in the Vesper and you look at the fact that increase anomaly buildup rate by 8% and anomaly damage by 15%, stacking up to 3 times, that's a 24% anomaly buildup rate for free, just for activating the Veil. You know who plays pretty decently with Haramasa? Suna, even Zhao. Go ahead and activate that Veil. He doesn't even need the damage. You don't have to build him as an anomaly character at all, but you get free quivers. Now you get quivers 24% faster than you would if you didn't have it. If you include his stunner, which whatever stunner you choose to use, that stunner is also building up anomaly. And at the end of the day, he's also building up his own, which is shock. P6 Haramasa, very strong. The damage, it's there. He already had good damage. Now he's got great damage. The execution is probably what's holding him back from a lot of the players being able to experience that. Him having a watch list, I agree. I would very much like to see if he can jump up to tier 0.5 and more people start to put some recognition on Haramasa. The other characters, we already know about it. Zhu Yuan, unless she gets a potential, a rework, I think she either needs to come down to tier 2, which is like crazy to say, or she needs a partner tag, and that partner needs to say dial in. Maybe I need to see more. I would love to see more, right? Because we do have Suna now. So I need to see a little bit more for Zhu Yuan. I love her. I love playing her. I think right now, Dial In or Suna, possibly both, are absolutely carrying her damage output right now. I don't think Zhu Yuan's damage output is keeping up with the current state of the game. I think the supports are hard carrying what she's able to do, personally. We already talked about the anomaly cast, so I don't really have to go over that anymore. The final one here, which I'm working on the video, so like bear with me, but I'll go ahead and tell you guys now. I think Lycon might be one of the new best characters in the game to build. From a free-to-play perspective, I think the new potential Lycon might be one of the best fucking characters in the game. He is a phenomenal pickup. If you have Lycon M1 or above, even M0, but especially M1 or above, you're chilling, you're good. Why, EO? They've pretty much turned Lycon into what I would like to consider, and of course, this is under the pretense that I don't know some things. He is basically a mini Nongon right now. If I needed to use something more current for people that understand, Lycon is basically if you took Trigger or Jafufu or Pokra, an off-field stunner, and you combine them with his original kit, which is on field. On top of the fact, he still gives a 25% ice resistant shred for his ice teammates, so Ellen and Miyabi and Yudhari, which is phenomenal. They love that. But now, I don't know the exact number. I think it's 10%. I could be wrong. But now he also gives a damage buff to every other element. Does he also give res shred to every other element? Was that a part of the potential change as well? Or is it just the damage buff? Just the damage. Okay, only shred is on ice. That's fine. 30% damage buff to all other attributes. That's not a lot. That's not huge, right? That's a good amount, but that's nothing crazy. Someone else gives 48%. Okay. His new ability to basically play as a puppeting character. Puppeting in general means that when you move, he moves. When you go attack, he goes to attack. When you press special, he press special. Whatever you do, he mimics. That's a puppet. They have changed Lycon into a puppeting character. So you can play him on field. He has an incredible amount of days. He gives himself more free days now than he did before. He has some of the best free-to-play engine options in the game available to him. You can rock him at M0. Mindscapes just make him better. More potentials just make him better. Stunners are different than supports. All of the new bosses in the game, the new meta, if you will, the enemy meta, have been designed around some type of stun. Being able to stun the enemy a set number of times or faster or on command, whatever. And now you have a character that can play on field and off field, never stops building days. If you're playing the new potential Lycon, he never stops building days. He's always building days, which means his passives are always active. You're always getting that buff. And now this frees up your slot. You still have a support character in the fucking back. You can still run Suna. You can still run Lucia. You can still run Yuzuha. You can still run Zhao if you wanted to. You can run Astra. You can run whatever the heck you want, right? Because he's able to let you do that and get away with it scot-free. And then your DPS just gets to do whatever she wants. When you get into, or they want, when you get into optimizing how each of them play together. And now let's take this back to like Haramasa, right? Both of these characters work amazing together. I didn't see this coming, but it's so great. So now you have situations where Haramasa and Lycon are best friends, because now let's say that Lycon was on field and Lycon pops freeze, boom, shatter happens, right? All of these quivers suddenly appear on the field. And now guess what I get to do as Haramasa? Wow, you just dropped quivers for me for free? I get to come out, I get to load my arrow, shoot my gun, shoot my bow and arrow, right? Quivers go zip zap zoom onto the guy. 1 2 3 1 2 3, whatever Haramasa wants to do. But guess what I don't have to stop doing now? I'm not done building days. My buddy over here is kicking the shit out of you. 1 2 3 kick. 1 2 kick. You know what? I feel like popping an EX. You're about to get stunned. One more hit and you get stunned. EX special, just to re-put quivers on the ground. Oh shit, you used EX special? Cross, and then he does EX special. He does ice kick, burning kick from Sea Viper across the screen. Lycon just whips it out for free, just because you used your EX special. The optimization that you can now do with Lycon because of the puppeting style that he has, phenomenal. For almost every single, and I say almost because I don't know all of them that can't do it. Everyone that I've tested it with so far loves them. You can do this with every single or almost every single attacking agent in the game right now. Lycon is a phenomenal character. I'm surprised he doesn't have the watch list. I'm also not surprised because, again, they think that stunners are supports. If you start seeing more players pick up Lycon and talk about like, yo, Lycon is saving my account right now, free to play Lycon, oh my gosh, right? Free to play player, Lycon, new changes. I think this character, as far as like, if I had to give a stun category, Lycon is creeping up to Trigger levels. Lycon is creeping up to the point where, just like Trigger, and you can use him or use her in everything, she's always beneficial. There might be one team, which is now like the Aria team. And even then, Aria Trigger is still getting like 40-something thousand a deadly score point, right? Or deadly assault score. She's still pulling back 40,000 points. It's just, she's not the strongest. She's at the lowest for the stunners, but she's pulling back 40,000 points. Lycon is creeping up to Trigger levels of being universally strongest for every single team in the game. I think he's up there. I think he's worth the watch list. If you guys are listening, keep your eye on Lycon. Over the course of the next patch or two, keep an eye on how Lycon starts to perform. So Kaku, tier 1, that's fine. Chingy, tier 1. Panda, that's fine. You guys know the rest of this. Everything else, I don't really care. Oh, Grace. With the new P6, And the fact that you can get her fusion compiler, even if you didn't rock fusion, weeping is okay, but you can get fusion now. I actually think Grace is now on the same level, sometimes stronger. Like right now versus Vesper, Grace is stronger. Jane and Piper. Wherever we're gonna put Jane and Piper, Grace needs to be there, especially at P6. I think Grace deserves that now. Again, Grace is a very technical character. Not everybody knows how to play Grace. Not everybody wants to play Grace. But I think right now, for those who are playing Grace and they have put in the work, Grace is up there. She's on par. She's on par with Jane and Piper, for sure. But that would be, I'm tired of looking at these ads keep popping up, guys. That's going to be it for me in the tier list. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed the calm yap. I'm out of energy now. That's why I'm not as boom. But I'm out of energy now, guys. Thank y'all for rocking with your boy. I'm going to wrap up that video, okay? I'm going to wrap up that video. And y'all let me know your thoughts and opinions, what you agree or disagree with. And if you disagree, instead of just saying like, you're wrong, you're stupid, whatever. One, keep it cordial. Y'all know me. Keep it respectful. And two, let me know why you disagree, right? Like if you don't think that Lycon is that impressive, tell me why. I know a lot of the Hugo mains didn't think Lycon was impressive because he changes how they have to play. And I'm not going to comment on that because like I'm not a top Hugo main. I can't even comment on that, right? But I think for everyone else, like, right, it's kind of weird. Maybe he did a trade-off. He traded his power or his synchronicity, right? With Hugo, he traded that to be more synchronized with everyone else in the game. And it benefits everyone else, but not as much as Hugo. I don't know, but that's pretty cool. But whatever. Anyway, let me know. Thoughts and opinions, all that kind of stuff. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later.